Hey guys, DJ Jack back with you here once again with another video. And this hour of this video, real quick, this video is presented by our friends at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, go see all the different exhibits and everything of people that have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and people that have been inducted. Thank you, rockandrollhalloffame.com, and learn more. I'm DJ Jack. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I wanted to talk a little bit about history and the history of rock and roll and basically the industry of back in from the 30s to the 50s to the 60s. Apparently I was reading a book about the history of this book called The History of Rock and Roll, if you guys can see it. I got this for Christmas, and apparently from my dad I got it. Apparently, it talks a lot about the history of how, like, back in the day, they're on TV, on television, there are only like three or four channels in the 60s and in the 50s back in the day. People a lot of times listen to the radio a lot to listen to the music and also the music wasn't affected by the civil rights. Apparently, a lot of young teenagers that were white listen to the what you call it, to Sam Cooke and African-American rock and roll artists back in the day. I learned a lot from that. Also, in 1956, the highway, I think it was like the Speed Something Highway or something Act was passed back in 1956. Forget what the beginning of it was called, of the act, but yeah, it let people buy like more than one car and stuff for certain ages and things. There's a lot of good history behind, basically the history of the 50s to the 60s to the 40s. How like so many people listened to radio, everyone listened to like Dick Clark, who enjoyed it better than this other DJ. I forget what his name was. It mentioned it in the book. It's really interesting. And if you haven't listened to this book yet, or read, or buy this, you should buy this book of the history of rock and roll if you like music a lot and want to hear the history of how, like, people always listen to music and all the different genres of people who listen to what and listen to what. But apparently, it was very common back in the day that white people and teenagers were listening to a lot of the African-American rock and roll, such as Chuck Berry, Little Richard. We're listening, and it's hard to believe that, because back in the day, I don't want to get into the civil rights and everything, but I just want to say that was very common back then, which I would think, like, you guys would be listening. To my friends that watch my channel that are African American, I feel like you guys would have been listening to those people back then. You're the audience that would have been listening. But apparently, it's interesting, which is really interesting. And I feel like both of them would be listening. Like, it did mention that teenagers were listening to a lot. It's so interesting, and because there was only like 3 channels on television, not everyone owned television back in the day. Not because there was those small TVs, because there weren't a lot of channels. There was I think there was only like ABC and NBC and a few others, but there weren't a lot back in the day. Not like what we have now. And to compare what we have now, we have more channels than we did back in the 60s, back in the 50s, back in the 40s. Television has really changed with the streaming now and everything, of course, but back in the day, television wasn't really common. It wasn't. It just wasn't. Not a lot of people owned TVs because there weren't enough channels. And apparently, a lot of people listen to the radio more often. This is all what I read in this book, and it's very interesting. And a lot of people listen to the music because they get away from the stuff about what happened in the rights and everything. But it's so interesting that people listen to the radio. Like, it was very common. People brought radio to their backyard. People brought it to them. And then later on, like, sometime in the 50s, radio was installed into the cars and everything, and everybody listened to AM radio. It was it's so interesting, these stories. I mean, it's great to hear this and learn this history about back in the day, you know? I mean, when we were at great times, but it's definitely history, and it's definitely very interesting. I just wanted to share that on my channel because this is interesting about this book. It mentions a lot of that, and it's very surprising and very interesting. But besides that, hit that subscribe button. I'm DJ Jack, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you. Laters.